Hey Book Dragons, welcome back to my channel. I'm so glad you could join me today. Today we are talking about the pros and cons of ebook readers. Let's go. So it has been a little over a year since I bought my Amazon Kindle. And I have to say, guys, it's been really great. I absolutely love my purchase. I'm a very happy Amazon Kindle customer. And there's lots of other ebook readers out there like Kobo. I think Barnes& Noble still makes their Nook that you can buy. As far as I've been able to tell, Amazon has the largest library of available titles for their ebook reader. So I know it's Amazon, I know it's a big conglomerate, and I know they have a monopoly on the market. I get it, but I just haven't really found anything better that I feel meets my needs. I know there's color ebook readers out there too, which is kind of cool, but at the end of the day, the quality of the Amazon Kindle product is just fantastic. So I've had this a little over a year now, and I did make a video a while back on my new purchase. When I purchased the Kindle, I made a video about it, and I'll link that in the description below and in the cards at the end of the video, so you can check that out if you want to. You can see my initial thoughts when I first got my Kindle and compare it to my video now, where I'm going to talk about the pros and cons of ebook readers, specifically to my experience with the Amazon Kindle. I have the Amazon Kindle Paperwhite, which is really awesome, and I will talk about some of the features of it. So here we go. The first thing I want to talk about is the convenience. It is so awesome to be able to have your entire library in a small device that's able to fit in a bag or in your pocket. I can literally put this in my pocket if I wanted to. I don't normally, but if I wanted to, I could. And it's just, it's small form factor, really easy to carry around. I've got all of my Kindle books on my device. I have not had to offload any of them yet. I got the 32 gigabyte model, and I just haven't filled it up yet. Now, I don't do audiobooks on my Kindle or anything like that. I don't download large files, so that probably helps. But it's been great for me. I have no issues with storage and the convenience factor of just being able to take all of my books anywhere I want to, fire it up at any time, and read a book is just phenomenal. So that is something that you can't say for your physical library, your books on your bookshelf, which I do have as well. You can see I've got plenty of physical books, but I can't just take my whole bookcase with me, right? So that's kind of cool to be able to have all of my books in my pocket. Another pro that I want to talk about is the fact that I can track my progress on my Kindle, my reading progress. So I can track it by how much time is left in the book. I can track it by how much time is left in the chapter I'm in. I can see what page I'm on, page in parentheses, if I want to compare it to the physical book, what page I'm on. There's just so many options to be able to say, okay, I've got this much left in this chapter, or I've got this much left in the book. That actually comes in really handy if you're one of those people, kind of like I am, where I like to try and finish a chapter if I can before I put the book down. And I can look down there and say, okay, I've got 5 minutes left in the chapter. That's fine. I can get through that much before I put it down for the day, or for the while I cook dinner or whatever. So that's really handy. Now, as a side note, I can also track it on Goodreads. That is one of the major benefits of having an Amazon Kindle is if you use Goodreads, which I do, it will allow you to sync your Goodreads account with your Kindle so that every time you start a book on Kindle, it will automatically update on Goodreads to say, hey, Charles is reading this book. And away you go. I don't think there is a feature yet to automatically update Goodreads where you are in the book. I don't think. If there is that feature, please let me know in the comments because I would love to know about that feature and how to activate it. But I don't think it exists yet. But just being able to have the ease of not having to switch over to Goodreads and update and say, hey, I'm reading this book here, like I do with my physical books, that's pretty handy. So next thing I want to talk about is organization. Organization is huge, especially when you have a ton of books. I've probably got about 300 books or more on my Kindle. So being able to organize them is huge. And for instance, you can organize it by author, which I do on my Kindle. So if I want to read an Agatha Christie book, I can go to the Agatha Christie folder on my Kindle and scroll down through all the Agatha Christie books I have, which I do have a lot, and pick the one I want to read, and away I go. It's really super easy and convenient. There's other ways to organize it. I mean, you can organize it by series. There are a few books where I've done that because it's maybe an author that I don't plan to read everything that they've written, but I like one particular series. So I label the category or the folder rather as that series. And so I can go and find it really easily because it's all alphabetized. I just love it. It is a fantastic feature to be able to organize everything the way I want it, and so many features to customize your library on Kindle. Another pro that I find with Kindle is being able to buy books instantly. So I get emails about ebook deals, and if I see a book that I've been wanting to read and it's on sale, which usually they're on sale for like $1.99, sometimes even less than that, I'll snag the book and it automatically syncs it with my library and downloads it to my Kindle for me. That's really, really convenient. Now, there is the option to buy the book directly from your Kindle. You know, you can go into your wish list on Kindle and select the book you want, buy it right there. It'll charge it to your payment method on file and start downloading it to your Kindle. I have not purchased anything on the Kindle itself yet. Not to say I wouldn't, but I've never been in a position to need to purchase it directly on my Kindle, but I could if I wanted to. So that's really cool. Now, on a side note there, I am going to do a side note. New releases, if you're waiting for the next book in a series and you know it's coming out soon, as soon as that book comes out, you don't have to wait until you go to the bookstore or until you get your order in the mail from Amazon. You can buy that book instantaneously right on your Kindle and it's available for you. I especially love that feature because I am waiting on a couple of books, one of which is The Winds of Winter by George R. R. Martin. We're all anxiously hoping that he will release book 6. And of course, The Doors of Stone by Patrick Rothfuss. So I like having the peace of mind to know that as soon as those books come out, I can instantly get it on my Kindle and start reading it. I don't have to wait until I go to the bookstore or wait until it comes out in my preferred format. I can just have it right away, instantaneously. And I know, first world problems, right, Chaz? You can't get your book right away. I know. I get it. But it's just great. It's so convenient to be able to to download my books on my Kindle and read them right away. Another thing that's really cool is having the dictionary feature. So if I don't know a word, I can hold down my finger on the word. It will instantaneously pop up the definition of that word, whether it's on Merriam-Webster or whether it's in Wikipedia or whatever it might be. It'll pull up the definition for me. That comes in really handy for more complex books or books that are older, like classic literature, where maybe they use some archaic words that we don't normally use in our modern age. You can look up the word right in the dictionary. It'll tell you what it is. There's also the X-ray feature, which is kind of similar, but it scans the entire book for instances of a particular word or phrase in the book where you might have seen it before, and it kind of jogs your memory on it, or it will give a definition. So this has come in really handy for me with the Malazan Book of the Fallen. I've recently been reading this series, and there's an entire glossary at the back of the book, or at least for the physical book, where it gives definitions for different character classes and stuff like that you'll encounter in the book. Now, it doesn't always work for everything that I want to kind of jog my memory on, but it is helpful for some things for me to get a definition of a particular race or class of creature or race of people in the Malazan Book of the Fallen, because there are so many damn characters. I mean, it's just madness. So that has been extremely helpful for me to have the X-ray feature to look up different things from the glossary without having to open up the glossary and scroll down and try and figure out what it is I need to find. So that is a super cool feature that really makes the Kindle stand out. I think that particular feature alone really makes the Kindle stand out from physical books, because, I mean, if you're reading a physical book and you don't know what a word is, you either have to look it up on your phone or you have to go and find a dictionary. If you still use physical dictionaries, does anyone even use physical dictionaries anymore? I don't. In the day of the internet, I don't really know why we need dictionaries. But it's really convenient to have it right on the Kindle. The next feature that I really find is super awesome to have is notes and highlights. If I'm reading a book that I want to take down notes on, especially on a particular sentence or passage in a book, all I have to do is hold down my finger on a particular word. It will start the highlight feature, and then it will let me highlight the particular phrase or passage that I'm wanting to take a note on. And then it'll bring up a little menu that says, highlight or note or what have you. And I select note and I can type in some notes. There's a keyboard on screen. Oh, it's awesome. And since I have the Kindle Paperwhite, it's a touch screen, right? So I just type it out. Granted, it's not as user-friendly as the keyboard on my phone, but it works pretty well for what I need it for. So, it's great. I love it. So I can take notes, I can highlight passages. I find myself doing that a lot with the Discworld books, because there are so many words and phrases that just make me laugh out loud. I'm like, oh, I gotta highlight that so I can talk about it later. So that's been a really cool feature. Now the next pro that I'm going to talk about is regarding larger book series. So let's say that you are wanting to collect all of the Wheel of Time books, for instance. I know a lot of my friends are super big Wheel of Time fans, and it's a 15-book series, right? So there's no way that you can own that entire series without having one whole shelf at least dedicated to it, if you own physical copies. Enter Amazon Kindle, or any book reader for that matter. You can buy all of the books on Kindle, and it takes up this much space. See, right there. It takes up this much space. So that's really nice. I've been reading through the Dark Tower series, and I determined from the get-go that I'm just going to buy those all on Kindle because they're not taking up space on my bookshelf. I don't have to worry if I have matching editions, which is something that might bother me. You know what? If some are shorter than other books, I might be like, oh, those don't really match. The covers don't match. So I don't have to worry about that. That's been pretty cool. I'm doing the same with the Dresden Files series. I'm buying it all on my Kindle because I think there's currently 18 or 19 books in the series, and he's going to be adding more. So it's really nice to be able to have larger series of books on your small little device to carry with you wherever you go, and you don't have to worry about buying a whole bunch of extra bookshelves to house all those books. So I really, really loved that feature, and for a lot of larger series, I've just determined I'm going to buy them on Kindle. Just the convenience factor of that. Now, one really cool feature that I don't use a whole lot, but I have used it in the past, is you can actually load documents and articles right onto your Kindle. So if there's a particular article that you really like and you're going to want to read it over and over again, you can load that right onto your Kindle. I have used that in the past. I don't use it very often, but it's come in pretty handy for me. Another thing that I really like, and this is especially huge for me as I get older, I do wear glasses for reading. You've seen me with my glasses on. So I'm farsighted. So if I'm reading, I do have to have my glasses on so that I can read up close. And I still wear my glasses for reading on my Kindle as well. But one thing that is really nice is you can change the font size on the Kindle to suit your needs. So if you need a really big font, let's say you just don't feel like putting on your glasses one day, you could go with this really ginormous font and try and read it that way. But you can adjust the font to meet your needs for different situations. You can also choose different font styles. Maybe there's a particular type of font that doesn't really set well with your eyes, that kind of makes you bug out. Maybe you need a different font that's going to be a little bit easier on the eyes. They also have, and I think this is really cool for people who deal with dyslexia, there's actually a dyslexic font on the Kindle. There's a font that has been specifically designed for dyslexic people on the Kindle, and I think that is super cool, and I just love how Amazon has gone to that length to be accessible for people who struggle with reading and with dyslexia. So I think that's just awesome. So that was just a side note, but overall, being an older guy, my eyesight's not what it used to be. It is really nice having the ability to increase the font on my Kindle and to choose my fonts. And the next one I want to talk about is huge, guys. This is a game changer. Now, I had one of the original Kindles way back in the day, and I liked it, but it was really bothersome to me that I still couldn't read it in low light if I was out and about where the light wasn't that great. I couldn't break out my Kindle and just read it whenever I wanted. It was more like a regular book where I had to kind of turn the light on or something like that to be able to read it. Not so with the Kindle Paperwhite. Let me tell you guys, Kindle Paperwhite is a game changer because it does have a front light on it. You can turn on the light on the Kindle. You can adjust it so no matter what lighting situation you are in, you are going to be able to read your Kindle. This is really convenient. Like, let's say you're married and your spouse likes to go to bed early and you like to stay up late reading. You can fire up your Kindle, and the light is not glaring at all. It's not going to disturb anybody. You can read in bed. I love being able to read in low light situations. At night, it's very often that we don't have a lot of lighting in the living room. So I don't have to worry about turning a light on. I can just fire up my Kindle and I can read anywhere I want to, no matter the lighting situation. And I absolutely love being able to do that, guys. It is huge for me. And being able to adjust the fonts and to have that backlight, those two things combined just makes the reading experience on Kindle so easy. I will say that I love reading on my Kindle so much more than reading a physical book in terms of the ease and, how easy it is on my eyes and things like that. It is just really fantastic. So that right there is just an absolute game changer for me, and it's made my experience of reading so much more pleasurable. Another thing I really like is being able to save my progress. You don't have to bookmark or anything like that. You can bookmark if you want to go back to a certain page, but you don't have to. If you're worried about not remembering where you left off in a book when you come back to it, you don't have to worry because the Kindle is going to save your spot. You can come right back when you're ready to start reading again and you'll be on the same page you were before. You can't do that with physical books. I mean, you can. You need a bookmark for it. You don't have to worry about that with Kindle. It is really easy and it automatically saves your spot. You never have to worry about where you left off. Now, I mentioned this briefly earlier, and that is ebook pricing. In most cases, you are going to pay drastically less for ebooks than you do for physical books. Again, that's not always the case. I mean, you can go to used bookstores and you can go to their clearance rack and you can get books for really cheap. I know that. I get it. But I have gotten so many books on Kindle for $1.99 or less, US dollars. It's just really, really great. Now, when you get a new book release that's really popular, a lot of times there's still like $12.99 or $14.99 for the ebook. I'm like, whatever. But if you have to read it right then, you're willing to pay that price, I guess. But the majority of the books I buy on Kindle are super cheap. And a lot of times you can get books free too. Like a lot of books that are in the public domain, you can download for free to your Kindle. They're not going to cost you anything. And so that is a really, really nice feature to be able to get books for so cheap. It saves you so much money being able to buy books on Kindle as opposed to physical. The last pro that I'm going to talk about is updates. Now this I probably would consider a minor feature, but it is kind of convenient. The Kindle is an electronic device. It will require updates every now and again, and as long as you have it hooked up to your Wi-Fi, you can easily get the latest updates automatically delivered to your Kindle. You don't have to do anything. The most you'll have to put up with is that the Kindle is going to turn itself off and reboot, and you'll see the little status bar for rebooting. That's it though, guys, and it's really simple to receive those updates. You really don't have to do anything. But it's not just the device updates that are huge on this. It is the book updates. So let's say a publisher updates the digital file for one of the Stormlight Archive books, which they have done. I've gotten notifications that there's an update waiting for one of my Brandon Sanderson books. And all I have to do is go in and download that update. Now, they probably have a feature where you can turn on automatic updates for the books. I should probably look into that. I haven't yet. But I can go into my Kindle library on the computer and it'll say, oh, there's an update for this book, and you can download the latest update. So, maybe they fixed an error. Maybe they updated the way the book was formatted on the Kindle, you'll get all those updates. You just have to go in and make sure that you update the file to the latest and greatest. But it's really cool. Whereas with a physical book, if you've got a book that has an error in it, well, I mean, that's tough. You're not going to get a book without that error unless you unless you buy the book again. And even then, you can't guarantee that it's always fixed. So I think that's really cool to be able to download those updates. Now, this is a pro and con video, right? So we're going to talk about those cons. The first con is switching between multiple books. And it's not a huge con, but it is a little bit inconvenient. So if I am reading multiple books, which I do, I am often reading at least 2 or 3 books at a time. And if those books all happen to be on Kindle, you're gonna have to do some finagling. Let's say I'm reading a Malazan book, which I am currently, and I want to switch over and read my Discworld book, which I'm also reading a Discworld book right now. I have to tap the screen. It'll bring up a little menu. I have to tap the home button. Then I have to search for the book again if it's not on my main screen. Sometimes it's on my main screen, which is convenient, so I can just tap it and open up the book from there. But if it's not, I have to go into my library and search it again. Even though I've been reading it, I have to search it in order to bring up the book and then tap it to open it. So that process is not really user-friendly. It's not horrible. It's just a little inconvenient, but it's a minor flaw. And, maybe they'll fix it one of these days. Maybe they'll make that process smoother. Maybe they'll have a currently reading section on your main screen that you just tap on the book and away you go. So that's something that I have found to be a con. The nice thing about physical books is, if I want to pick up the other book I'm reading, I just go grab it off my shelf or whatever, open it up to where the bookmark was, and I'm good to go. So that is one thing you have to be aware of with having a Kindle. Another con about the Kindle is something that I think is probably obvious. It's not as aesthetically pleasing as a physical book. With physical books, like I can go and I can open up this book right here, and I can flip through the pages, and I even get that ASMR feeling with it, flipping through pages. I can open the book and smell it. I have that feel of paper in my hand, right? It's not as aesthetically pleasing with the Kindle. You're holding a piece of plastic, right? You're tapping the screen to go between pages, and it smells like plastic. It's just not as nice holding the Kindle, but it's one of those sacrifices you make for having the convenience of having the Kindle. So yeah. Another thing that some people may see as a con is, I think I mentioned it before, the Kindle is not color. They do not make a color version of the Kindle, at least not yet. Unless you want to buy a Kindle Fire, which is more like a tablet computer than an e-reader. You can read books on it, of course, but it's not just your basic e-reader. It's more like a tablet computer. So if you're reading on a Kindle, it's not color. And if you are someone who really, really likes book covers and all the colors popping and everything like that, you're not going to get that on the Kindle. So if you buy books based on their cover, you're not going to be able to see color covers on here, folks. It's not that big a deal for me. If I want to look at the cover of a book, I'll go online and look at all the pretty colors, right? And look at the way the artist shaped the book cover and take it all in. But on the Kindle, I can't get that. I can't get those colored book covers. So that might be a deterrent for you if that is something you like. And the last con that I'm going to talk about here, and there may be others, so if you have other cons that you have discovered with owning an e-reader, let me know in the comments below. But the last one I'm going to talk about today is lending books. I believe there is a feature, or at least there used to be, where you could lend someone else a book for up to 14 days. The Kindle Lending Library, I think it was called. And I think you still can. I don't know. I haven't looked. It is not very user-friendly lending books to people, and if it's still even available. You cannot loan books on an indefinite basis to anyone if it's a Kindle book. You just can't. You know, if I, again, with this book here, if I want to let a friend borrow it for a couple of weeks or a month or 2 months, or maybe they forget to ever give it back to me, it's not an issue. But, well, I hope they give it back to me. But it's not an issue as far as time constraints. You know, they can keep it indefinitely. Whereas on the Kindle, that's just not possible. So if you're the type of person who likes to loan your books out, I don't. I typically do not loan books for reasons, and I won't go into those here. But if you like to loan books, you're not going to be able to do that with the Kindle, at least not in a very easy fashion. So after a year of owning my Kindle, I am a very happy Amazon Kindle customer. I will always continue to read ebooks. Even though I still like owning physical books, that's not going to change. But it's really changed my purchasing habits, being able to own a Kindle and to download books to it. I really reserve my bookshelves for books that I really feel like I want to own physical copies of. And the rest goes on my Kindle. It's super convenient. You've heard me say before that I am a minimalist, so it helps me with my minimalism. I don't have to buy tons of bookshelves to house all my books. It's just been a really great experience for me. So let me know what you think in the comments below. Do you own a Kindle or do you own another e-reader device? Let me know in the comments below what you think about e-readers. Do you prefer physical books? Let's have a dialogue in the comments. I would love to discuss it with you. And guys, make sure that you are reading more books, whether it's digital or physical. And I will talk to you later. Bye.